Hey guys, welcome back to another chess game analysis video. Today we're going to take a look at a game played in 1964 between Bobby Fischer and Paul Benko. I've got this game from Fischer's book, 60 Memorable Games, and we're going to go straight into it. So Fischer here having the white pieces opens with e4, and now we have the modern defense, G6, which transposes afterwards into a Pirk-Robach defense. We're going to take a look at that in a second. Fischer goes ahead and plays d4, developing the bishop. And now Fischer plays knight c3. The book goes into depth, and it's very interesting that in this position actually you can, after the move c4, putting another pawn in the center, play d6, and after knight c3 now you can play a knight f6, and now you basically transposed with a change in move order to a King's Indian defense. You've got a castle, you're going to play e5, you're going to bring the knight here, eventually you're going to play f5, and you're going to have a nice King's Indian game. So I wanted to show this variation because I'm also a King's Indian player, and I didn't know that you could actually, with this move order, from the modern defense, try to basically bait white to push and in the center and then go into a King's Indian defense. Um, Obviously, this is better for white because they have white has space advantage, but that's just according to the engine. Every King's Indian player knows that it's very comfortable to play if you know what you're doing. So a very nice line here. You could transpose into the King's Indian, but Bobby Fischer decides not to go for this, and in this position he goes knight c3. So now on move 3, Benko goes for d6, and now you could develop another piece, but Fischer aggressive plays f4. And here in this position you could have also gone for bishop e3, and the knight could have transposed again to this sort of structure where it's again a modern defense but very solid for white. Um, no ideas of the knight coming here and exchanging this bishop because of f3. A very comfortable position, but a little bit more solid, not so aggressive. f4 is quite aggressive, and this is known as the Austrian attack. So now after knight f6, the engine actually calls it a modern defense, but the book calls it a Pirk-Robach defense, so you can decide for your own how you want to call this. Theory has also evolved over the last 60 years since the book has come out, so you can decide for yourself. Anyway, a very interesting position, and after a knight f3, the game is kind of equal. Um, You could have also developed your bishop instead in this position. Would have also been quite a comfortable game, but Fischer goes for knight f3, black castles kingside, very natural, developing a piece. In this position, I wanted to show you a line that Fischer mentioned in the book, that he also, bishop d3 in this position is an improvement to bishop e2, which is from a game that he has also played in the past. Um, and the game continued with c5, striking in the center, d takes c5, and queen a5, temporarily sacrificing a pawn, but after castles, queen takes c5 check, king h1, and knight c6. Black gets the pawn back and has a comfortable position, good development, king safety, four pieces in participating in the game, and after knight d2 you could go ahead with a5, quite aggressive, but knight b3, queen b6, a4, knight b4, and this is a game that has happened in the past where Fischer actually, in this position, you could go with for instance h3, which is a nice move. You could also develop a piece, but there's been a game where g4 was played here, And after bishop takes g4, this was just a crushing position, and white lost this game terribly. I want to show you this line because this is a line where white can get into trouble. It seems like the bishop is actually better placed here on d3 instead of e2. So in this position, Fischer improves his own game, playing bishop to d3 on move 6, and now we have an inaccuracy. Bishop g4. So Benko plays this in order to give up this bishop for the knight, which neither the engine nor the book actually really understands why he did it, because it does not ruin white's pawn structure, it does not ruin or does not hinder white's development, it just gives up a bishop. There was a game where in this position, very interesting move, knight a6, developing the knight onto the rim of the board, and after e5, d takes e5, f takes e5, knight d5, going into the center, knight takes and queen takes. White is slightly better. There have been some games on both sides. White and black have already won this game. The knight can come here, attack the bishop. Quite the comfortable position. White has not yet castled. This would have also been playable, and would probably have been a better continuation for black, and would have given black better chances than what happened in the game. In the game, Benko played bishop g4, which is an inaccuracy. The bishop immediately gets kicked with h3 and has to give itself up for the knight, and after bishop takes, then queen takes. Black has given up the bishop pair, and white still has the bishop pair. This bishop is not developed yet, but bishop pair, more space in the center. White has got a comfortable position even after knight c6. Developing another piece, and now the last minor piece gets developed with bishop e3. At this point, you know, from these kind of pure King's Indian modern defense kind of structures, at some point you need to strike in the center. It's the right time here. e5 needs to be played. But still, the engine favors white with plus 1.6 quite heavily, and one pawn gets exchanged, d takes and d takes, and now you don't want to take this pawn because the knight is just going to recapture, attacking the queen. This would kind of help black to solidify, and you don't want that. You want to break open the king side and checkmate the black king. So in this position, Fischer played f5, trying to open up the position, and it's already quite difficult for black to find a good move here. Benko captured, which is not that great, but there are some more engine line moves like knight d4, which attacks the queen and it gives black a better fighting chance, but the position is already quite bad. After g takes f5, Fischer captures with the queen. And just to quickly show, after the pawn captures, you have e4, which temporarily sacrifices a pawn, but you get the pawn back and you kind of solidify. This is definitely playable for black, and black has gone counterplay, especially because the white king is also still in the center, so you always need to be paying attention to that as well. So the better move was play queen takes f4. Now and knight d4, which is good. I wanted to show you one more line. In this position, you could try to exchange the queens here, but after queen takes d7, knight takes d7, you have this very nasty knight d5, threatening this pawn, a very dominant knight here in the position. The king is still open, you can castle either way, and this is just a terrible position. Everything is falling apart. This is why the queen trade, which would normally be alright to kind of get material off the board and be less under pressure, in this position it just doesn't work, and this is why Benko went ahead and placed the knight into the center, at least activating one piece, which is a good placed knight here. queen goes back. I want to show you a very interesting line. It's more like an engine line, but the book also mentions it. And 50 years after the book has been published, the engine agrees with the line. In this position, you could actually capture on e5, and now the queen gets double attacked with knight g4, and now the queen gives itself up, sacrifices itself for this bishop. King takes and h takes, and the knight is attacked. It needs to go back, and you end up with a weird position after e5. Let's say the rook defends this pawn because it had been attacked twice. Bishop h6 check, king goes back, knight comes in here. It's an absolutely chaotic position where in this variation white is completely crushing. So the queen sacrificed, but look at all these active pieces, and black can castle. There's already the threat of winning back the queen because the king can't move. So a disastrous position. Fisher writes in his book that in this position he did not he did not go into this line because here black has a very nice idea. Instead of going knight to e6, he could go knight to c6. And Fisher did not think that after castles, rook in the center and g5, that white has sufficient play. The engine says it's +2, so white is definitely winning here, or has at least good compensation for the queen. You have given up the queen for 2 bishops and 1 pawn, but you still have this very open king. This rook does not play part in the game, so this would be crushing. Fisher decided to play it slowly. He went back with the queen to f2, which is also a good move. He did not risk too much here, going into this complicated queen sacrifice line. So Benko brought his knight back to e8, and now finally Fischer castles. Knight comes into d6, and there was also this idea of going c6 in this position, but knight e2 would force the trade of the only active square, of the only active piece in black's camp, and therefore the engine already gives +3, so it's crushing. So Benko did not go into this. Instead, he went ahead and brought his other knight into the game with knight d6, but now the queen comes into the attack, queen g3. An interesting move would have also been knight e2 anyway, to try and exchange this piece and bring the queen over here afterwards. But Fischer immediately, queen g3, best move in the position. King goes to h8 into the corner, away from this very nasty pin of the queen. Queen comes a little bit further, and now c6, not the best move, but it's already quite a difficult position, to be honest. Fish writes in his book that c5, solidifying the knight even further, would have given black a better chance of fighting. But c6, and now the queen comes into the attack. Queen h5. And now, probably the decisive blunder of the game by Benko. He plays queen e8, which completely gives white the initiative and the lead. There would have been moves like knight e6, bringing another defender into near the black king, which would have been better, or even c5. I kind of understand from a human perspective, if you play c6 here, do you really want to play c5? You move that pawn once and now you move it again. So I see that he did not go into this line, but queen e8 is definitely a mistake, because now you trade off the only active piece in black's position, this very nicely placed knight, and after recaptures. How do you continue the attack with white? White is completely winning. You see the eval bar on the right hand side. If you want to pause the video, go ahead, try to find the only really winning move. The other moves all draw, so it's basically an only move that you have to find. Pause the video and try to find the move that Bobby Fischer played in this position. So I hope you have paused. If you have found e5, unfortunately this only draws the game. You threaten checkmate here, which is the right idea, but it's just not the right move order to play. You have to play e5 afterwards. The problem here is that a very nice counterattack in the center f5 actually stops the threat of checkmate because it cuts off the bishop, but it also attacks white's queen. So you can't en passant and threaten checkmate again because your queen would be hanging. So in this position, after f5, queen is attacked, the bishop is blocked, so you don't have much more than trading queens. But after takes and let's say knight takes, the position is just equal. You're not up material and you don't have an attack anymore. This knight is still attacked, so the engine gives equal, material is equal, and nobody really has an advantage here. Unfortunately, so e5 in this position would have been countered with f5, and this would lead to a draw. But there is a very interesting move here, which we in the stream debated long about that move when we analyzed the game in the stream. If you want to check out the stream, by the way, we always analyze games live there, and afterwards I'm going to show them on YouTube the essence that we picked out of the analysis. So the move that you had to find in this position was rook f6, actually. It looks a little bit suicidal, to be honest, but the idea is in the game king h8 is played, which is alright, but first we want to show you what happens if the rook is accepted because it's not protected. Bishop takes f6. Now the problem is that the bishop is in the f-pawn's way, so the f-pawn can't push. Now e5 is winning because the pawn can't advance to f5 because the bishop is in the way. So this is a mate in 3 actually. You could, for instance, get the knight in between, knight f5, but queen just captures it, and after the king moves, queen just mates on h7. So bishop takes f6 is definitely not possible. So what happens after, if you play rook f6, what happens if, for instance, this knight is captured? We could play d takes c3, but now same applies, e5, and now we have black has not captured white's rook, and the white rook actually prevents the f-pawn now from advancing to e5. And again, a piece is blocking this f-pawn, which desperately needs to go to f5 in order to prevent checkmate. But the rook is there, so the f-pawn can't move, and it's again a mate in 3. You can only put pieces in between. There is nothing to defend. So this knight is also off limits, you can't capture it. So what happens if the most resilient defense is probably just knight f5, giving up the knight, but I mean, are you really gonna play that? You're just down a piece, and this rook still can't be captured because e5, and there's checkmate. So you don't win back material, so this knight just gets grabbed, and there's no compensation at all. You could basically just resign in this position. So Benko, a strong player, he saw that he could neither capture the rook, nor the knight, nor move anything at all, and he played the king to h8. But now, the thing that we prepared all the way, e5, and there is again this checkmate threat. So Benko played h6, which is best move in the position, and now basically all moves win, or a lot of moves win, but Fischer just went ahead and saved his own knight. So after knight e2, there is a problem for black. So the knight being attacked, but it can't move, so basically you're just losing a piece on the spot here, and there is still an attack coming because the knight can come in here, the knight could also come in here. There are still threats of checkmate. Let's say we capture the rook, then now queen captures here, and there's still checkmate threat. So after knight e2, Benko actually resigned the game because there is nothing that he can try here. There are no moves left. You're just down a piece, and the attack is still coming. So a justified decision, in my opinion, to give the game up at this point. Yes, I think Benko kind of got crushed, but there was only one decisive mistake, and it's in this position on move 17, where he moves the queen to e8. whereas he definitely had some better alternatives, bringing some defense back and trying to hold on to the game a little bit longer. Anyway, I'm gonna leave you with this very nice end screen of the game. The game ended in 21 moves and Fisher won eventually after resignation. So I hope you liked this game. I hope you liked the video. Check out my stream, check out my Instagram, and I hope I'm gonna see you back here on the channel anytime soon. Have a nice day. Bye.